change in output is equal to K times delta PV. And the rest being the same, K over I error dt plus K times dt P error dt. So this is Honeywell equation 3, Yokogawa's I dash PD, and Foxborough's Fox SPL lag equal to 0. You still have Fox document?
Yeah.
Can you do a quick check?
Yeah.
I don't want to get this wrong then. It's either SPL there, either 0 here, 1 here, 1 0 there. So this is a configuration parameter. So in Honeywell, you would go to Honeywell and equation form, and you will actually see equation 1, 2, 3. So you select which one, whether it's equation 1, equation 2. In Yokogawa, that equation form will either be PID, PI-D, or I-OD. So you select I-D. The name. So in the configuration page, you actually select. In Foxborough, you have to look for this particular parameter called SPL lag. And you either set it at 1 or set it at 0. So I can't remember which one is which. So because there is this term called delta PV over here, this works on disturbances. Remember, there's no set point in this term. Right. So if you want to eliminate disturbances, what do? I just increase the gain. I can eliminate all the disturbances in the process. Right? So this works on disturbance, this works on set point, and you look at it and you think, oh, that's cool. If I want to tune for set point, I just play with the integral term. When I tune for disturbance, I play with the K term. Okay? This is why for any work that we're doing in GTS, for new plants, new whatever APC, new improvement, we try and change the algorithm to this algorithm. Right? For especially very effective for long dynamic loops. Right? Now for short dynamics, like example flow, you don't get not much differences. There's not too much difference. So if it's a flow loop, you generally wouldn't consider applying this equation. But if you have a long dynamics loop, you generally find this equation performs very, very well. And yes?
But if that's the case, the P action doesn't act on set point changes anymore.
Sorry, in which case for flow you mean?
If you use the third equation.
Yeah, if I use the third equation, the P term does not act on set point. Right? It doesn't act on set point. So in general, we find something very interesting. If you apply a gain of 1 here, right? In this loop, you can apply a gain of 3. Right? Because when the operator does a set point change, nothing happens. It happens here, but because this is divided by an integral term, the impact is very small. So generally when you go from here to here, we actually require you to increase the gain of the controller, or else it becomes very sluggish. Right? Okay. And so just before tea time, I will do the stability issues. I think if we do stability issues, then we finished. Yes. Okay, so let's finish this and go for break, and then we can start the actual course after this. So we talked about stability issues. We said everything's okay except for a few loops, and you have stability issues that affect maybe less than 5% of control loops out there. Right? And here you talk about a few things. You talk about noise. And noise is, what is noise? How do you distinguish between something that's like this or something that's like this? How do you know it's the process or it's not the process? Right? Noise is measuring instrument related, not from process. Okay? Really, really important. If you see a process that's moving like that, and you know the process is moving like that, we don't call it noise. Noise must be generated by the measuring instrumentation only. Right? And the only one, the most common one that we see is flow transmitters. Because all flow transmitters, you will always notice a little bit of shake associated. Almost all flow transmitters. Right? Especially orifice plate transmitters, you will see that. It is generated by the instrument, not by the process. What do I mean by that? Can you imagine your process doing this? Right? That you actually see something that is... Do you think in your pipe, your process is shaking? Your whole plant will be shaking if it's actually moving like that, right? It's crazy. No plant, no process in the world does this. Your whole plant will shake to bits, right? So when you go to a DCS and you see the thing moving like that, it's not the process. If the process is moving like that, it's time to run away. Okay? So processes don't move like that. It originates from the measuring instrument itself. So if you know it's noise, then you have to take care of it. And we always say fix the transmitter first if you can fix the transmitter. If you can fix it first. If you can't, so step one is fix the transmitter, if you can. Step two is apply a filter. Okay? So if you can, you apply a filter to the process. Did Andrini show you a simulation of a filter yesterday?
No simulation.
There's an Excel version of Okay, so this is something I just built out of Excel, so I just use a sine curve. And so what I can do is I can apply a noise element. So let's say I've got this noise and I just use a random number generator to superimpose on a sine curve. So I get this Right. Now I apply a filter on it. So I put a 1 second filter. The blue line is the 1 second filter.
It's here.
Now watch what happens when I increase the filter time. So it gets better, right? I put 3 seconds of filter. And the blue curve starts to look nicer, right? And let's put in a bit more filter time and you see what happens. You notice something? The blue line is starting to look really nice. So what's happening to the blue line? It's starting to shift, right? So what's happening is the process is reaching a peak here, but the filtered output is reaching a peak later. In fact, if I put in more filter, it starts to shift further and further. You are starting to introduce a lag in the process. So the process reaches a peak, but if you apply a filter, the panel operator won't see that peak. He will see it later. So there's a danger in applying too much filter because you introduce a lag to the process. Okay? So you don't want to apply. And there's something else that happens if you notice. You reach a peak here, but with the filtered output, it's starting to decrease. Right? So you notice that the peak to peak now, so if I started at, say, 3 seconds just now, I get a high output. Let's say I put 15. You're starting to see it shrink. So even though your output reaches a high level, say it's reaching 100 tons per day, but your measured value that you see on the DCS, if you apply too much of a filter, you may only get 80 or 90 tons per day. So it's really dangerous, and this one I really emphasize, anybody wanting to apply a filter, not more than 3 seconds. Okay, you never apply a filter. As a rule of thumb, you never apply a filter more than 3 seconds. Because you still get about the right number. Okay? So this is my learning experience. When I first started applying tuning, so I had a boss in MLNG, head of process control was a big white American guy called Dave Hugg, before I took over from him. So I was doing a re-instrumentation project in MLNG, and I was working with the DCS, and it was really noisy. Thankfully it was a nitrogen loop, so a nitrogen plant in MLNG, and I applied a filter, and I put a 3 seconds filter, right? And I got this fantastic performance, right? And I thought that was really cool that I got a fantastic performance. And my boss came, so I was sitting down in a chair at the panel, and my boss came.